Sister-in-law severed all contact with us after a $10 request from my mother-in-law, unleashing a cascade of family drama and deceit. My sister-in-law, SIL, has completely cut ties with my husband and me, telling us she never wants to hear from or see us again. All because their mother, my mother-in-law, Mill, asked her for just $10 and we had the nerve to side with Mill when Sil refused. Sounds petty, right? Trust me, it is. But simple? Oh, it's not simple at all. For some context, let me set the scene. This isn't happening in the US, we live in the Caribbean. That's why you'll catch us adults calling our parents mommy and daddy. It's a sign of respect here. The culture seeps into everything. How we talk, how we care for family, even how jobs operate. And ever since the pandemic, life really hasn't been easy. Most of the country relies on tourism, and the fallout hit us hard with jobs evaporating almost overnight. My husband has 3 siblings. Brother number 1, Bill 1, who would probably watch you drown if it meant saving his rope. Brother number 2, Bill 2, sweet but a bit naive. And then there's Sil. There are no words strong enough to capture her behavior, but if you get the feeling she's an absolute handful, you're right. Sil is the youngest, spoiled rotten, long before their parents split up, and when the separation finally became permanent, things only escalated. She mastered pitting parent against parent and often dragged her brothers under the bus without a second thought. My husband and I have witnessed this pattern getting more toxic as Sil turned into an adult, but try talking sense into Mill or Phil, impossible. They felt crushing guilt about Sil growing up in a broken home, so they excused and enabled every manipulative tantrum, every snide insult, every act of selfishness. I still remember when Sil was 12 and stole my lingerie right from the dryer. Yes, really. For a while, I thought the dryer had eaten my panties, the same way it loses socks. But then, a month later, I caught Sil tossing them back into our kitchen through the open back door. Confronting her should have been simple, but when I went to ask why she took them, Mill actually got upset with me instead. She demanded my husband make me apologize to Sil for accusing her, even with the evidence so clear. That's just how Sil spun everyone around her finger. Fast forward to 2020. The siblings are all somewhere in their 20s, young adults. Bill 1, Bill 2, and Sil are still living at home with Mill, only paying $200 each for rent, all utilities, and groceries, because Mill still feels compelled to atone. She keeps sacrificing her own needs, going so far as to skip out on buying shoes for work, while the kids, especially Sil, live it up. When Sil blew money on a week's vacation abroad while Mill could barely afford her basics, I was speechless at the audacity. Then, the pandemic hit, the final blow. Mill lost her job and needed the kids to help financially until she could find work. It wasn't meant to last forever, it was just to keep their heads above water while everything unfolded. Bill 1 wasn't pleased but was willing to be reasonable. Bill 2 rolled with it. Sil? Oh, she made it 5 months before moving out abruptly to live with her boyfriend. Not a warning, not a real conversation, just I'm too young to take care of you, mummy. I have my own life to live. She left, painting herself as a martyr who had carried the whole family, even though everyone had been chipping in equally. And she didn't just leave Mill, she left her own dog for Mill to care for, with no money, no food, none of the responsibilities. We all stood there, stunned. Mill had busted herself, calling in favors to get Sil a job right out of high school, no interview, no application, just handed to her. Mill, with help from my husband and me, even bought Sil her own car, with no expectation of getting repaid, and of course, we never saw a dime from Sil. What happened? Mill, unable to keep up, lost her apartment. But while my husband's family had learned to expect Sil's chaos, her boyfriend was not so forgiving. A year into their relationship, he dumped her and told her to get out. Guess who she ran crying to? Mill. And guess who took her in without even a whisper of protest? Mill. I was disgusted. Sil had left the family when things got truly hard, and now Bill 1 and Bill 2 had to upend their own lives for Mill. Bill 2 moved Mill in, even though it crushed his social and romantic life and added the burden of pets Sil had abandoned. There's Sil, now sleeping on Bill 2's couch, the same couch she left empty when things were good. But, I'm just the daughter-in-law. I can't dictate to a mother how she deals with her child. Believe me, I give my husband my honest thoughts, but he and Mill are softies at heart. They helped Sil hunt for a new apartment, and when she got herself evicted for tormenting her landlord, they helped her apartment hunt again. I loaned Sil $700 out of my own personal savings so she could pay her deposit, with the understanding she'd repay at least $100 a month. Expectation is a funny thing, isn't it? Because the reality was Sil didn't pay us back at all. Every month, there was an excuse for my husband. Oh, I had to buy a new battery for my car. Oh, I had doctor's bills, and then, suddenly, that car needed yet another new battery. I tried to shrug it off. I knew I'd never see my $700 again. We're not rolling in extra cash, but when family needs help, we help. I'd grown used to the lack of thanks or repayment. What bothered me more was watching her splurge on new shine hauls every week or showing off her $20 lunches she'd eat in front of Mill, who was still out of work, never offering to share a single bite. It wrecked me. That's when the $10 crisis unfolded. Mill was now living with Bill 2, and the situation was wearing thin. All 3 brothers were pitching in equally, but Bill 2 had to shoulder the day-to-day burden. Mill in his home, his social life on pause, and responsibility for Mill's pets and the dog Sil had thoughtlessly dropped off. I watched the strain grow, knowing it would only be a matter of time before something snapped, the added pressure of paying for extra utilities and the responsibility of driving my mother-in-law and the pets everywhere, that all ended up on me and my husband's shoulders. But notice, I never mentioned my sister-in-law, Sil, volunteering to help. That's because, in Sil's mind, her version of help was something else entirely. Every so-called purple moon, Sil would let Mill crash on her couch. She didn't let Mill live with her. Instead, she'd invite Mill over for a sleepover, then the very next day, she'd ship her back to Bill 2's place. Now, never mind that Bill 2 was already wrangling Sil's dog, footing most of Mill's expenses, and keeping a roof over Mill's head. The sad part? Mill adored her sleepovers with Sil. She looked forward to them, cherishing that feeble mother-daughter time, even though the reality was just slumping on a sofa together, binging Netflix. No surprise, Bill 2 was getting more and more irritated by this blatant favoritism. One time, during one of those rare sleepovers, Mill was strapped for cash. She needed $10, just enough for some toothpaste and pet food. So she asked Sil for $10. Half an hour later, my husband got the phone call. Sil, something's gotta give with Mum. My husband asked, what? Mum's stubborn about something? No. I just can't deal with her asking me for money anymore. My husband, ever the realist, said, that's not what that expression even means. And what do you mean can't deal? You're not supporting her financially. We boys are. Sil thrust back, excuse me? I do a lot for Mum, okay. He let her have it, okay, whatever you say. What happened? That's when Sil got loud. Honestly, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. Mum's gonna break me. He shot back, really, Sil? $10 is going to break you? She didn't like that retort at all. Suddenly, she starts listing off her expenses. I have a car loan to pay. He reminded her, no you don't. We helped Mum buy the car for you, in full. I have car insurance to pay every month. He corrected, since when does anyone pay car insurance monthly? That's an annual fee. She grasped for another excuse, well, I have utilities to pay. He pointed out, no you don't. Your rent is all inclusive. She exploded, not Netflix. I have to pay my Netflix bill, you know. As if that was a reasonable excuse. Paying for Netflix? I could hardly believe it. By then, my husband had had enough, but knowing how Sil reacts when she's cornered, he tried to keep his cool. He said, okay, Sil, if you're having trouble budgeting, we can work on that, but it's not wrong for Mum to ask for $10. She cut him off, but I need gas in my car. He tried to reason, listen, I get it. Maybe you don't have $10, I roll. But the thing is, you always seem to have money for bento box lunches and endless shine orders whenever you want, but never when the family needs you. Snapping, Sil replied, what I do with my fucking money is my business. He told her to calm down, insisted, just manage your money better. So, what do you make a week? Silence. He repeats himself. Eventually, in a voice barely above a whisper, Sil confesses, like, for something. You mean $450? Yeah. So my husband pulls out our old Excel budget planner, sets one up for Sil, and prods, how much do you have left for the week now? She insists, not enough to give Mum $10. At that, my husband, exasperated, asks her to stop being belligerent. That was it, the straw that broke Sil's back. She flips out, unwilling to put up with this treatment. He has no right to make her feel bad for not bequeathing $10 to her own mother. In her melodramatic opinion, everyone is so mean to her, always attacking her. After everything she's sacrificed for Mill, nobody respects her. She lets Mill use her couch, shares her Netflix. My husband, clapping back, bravo. You let Mum sleep on your couch and use the internet your landlord pays for. Thanks to you, Mum doesn't have to sleep on the streets tonight. Her response? You know what? Maybe she fucking should. I'm not the mother. I have my own damn life. If I want to buy sushi every day for lunch, I will. He can't resist. Yeah, you can afford daily sushi, but you've never paid Op back even a cent of the $700 she loaned you for your rent over the summer. And Sil? Fuck you, fuck Op, and fuck Mum. I'm done with you all. She hangs up. Within 2 minutes, my phone dings with a banking notification. Remember all those excuses about being too broke to ever pay me back that $700? Too stretched that month to give Mill even a measly $10? Well, right after that blowout, Sil sent me the full $700, instantly. She'd had it all this time, just didn't feel she should pay it back, probably convinced herself she never would. But that wasn't even the dirty low point. Just minutes later, Mill called, desperate to figure out what happened. Apparently, Sil had just called her, triumphantly announcing that she'd transferred $50 to Mill's account. That would be her last act of generosity. Never contact me again, she said. Have a nice life, Mum. By now, my husband was beyond furious. It was all a con, she'd ripped us all off. He tried to call her out for treating Mill so cruelly, but, shocker, Sil had blocked him everywhere. Mill and my husband talked it over, brokenhearted. Even after all this, my husband worried about Syl's well-being. He confessed to Mill that he'd helped her with a budget, concerned that if she was only making $450 a week, she needed to be careful. And that's when Mill dropped the final truth bomb. $450? She makes $650. I literally dropped to the floor. She'd lied about her salary too, all to dodge forking over $10 bloody to her own mother. At that point, even Mill realized Syl cared about no one but herself. It stung. Syl's the only daughter, but Mill finally agreed this behavior couldn't be excused. My husband and Mill agreed, time to go no contact with Syl. So, tell me why, just a week later, Bill 2 called to say Mill was babysitting Syl's new dog? Not even the same dog Bill 2 had been stuck with, Syl had acquired a new one. The second Mill saw Syl's name on the caller ID, she answered, and was there for her in an instant. That was 4 months ago. Now Syl and Mill are thick as thieves, acting as if none of it ever happened. Even though Syl had said, straight-faced, that maybe Mill should sleep on the street, Mill took her back, no apology demanded, no hard feelings. As for me and my husband? Syl still has him blocked across every platform. Guess we're the bad guys here. How dare we, right? How dare we ever expect Syl to help out her own mother, or pay back the money she owed us, or, God forbid, call her out on her crap. Update 1. These past few months have been absolutely wild, but for once, I finally have some good updates on the whole Syl saga. It has officially been 9 months since my husband and I had any communication with his sister. The last time was when she blocked him after he called her out for refusing to lend their own mother just $10. Ever since then, life has been amazingly quiet and blissfully drama-free. My mother-in-law has truly turned her life around. She landed a great job and started legitimate therapy. She has completely reclaimed her independence, with her own apartment, her own car, and, best of all, friends who genuinely care about her. The divorce between Mill and Phil is now finalized, and, unsurprisingly, my father-in-law seems to have gotten Syl in the split. Now, Mill only has the most minimal contact with Syl, just a quick monthly check-in via text. It's not the outcome Mill hoped for, but her therapist assures her it's the healthiest route, at least until Syl gets her act together. My other brother-in-law, Bill 2, finally has his space back to himself, and he's thriving. He's picked up a better job and really seems to be doing well. My husband, too, has learned the importance of distancing himself from all the family drama, so we've been soaking up every ounce of peace that grants us. Honestly, I might share some of the second-hand drama we've heard about lately because, at this point, it's nothing more than hilariously karmic entertainment for us. None of it affects us personally, and we're not investing any more time or energy into their chaos. As for the pets, Mill has both dogs, and they're doing well. Syl apparently has a new dog, one she adopted from her cousin, supposedly to show what a kind person she is. She's been treating the dog decently, but only because her cousin actively checks in on the pup from time to time. Update 2. Karma is sweet. Honestly, sometimes it's even sweeter than a triple chocolate cake with a side of ice cream. And today, the batch of karma served up is practically diabetes-inducing. Guess who came crawling back? That's right, my sister-in-law has returned, tail between her legs, desperate to move in with the very mother she heartlessly scorned just last November. Let me rewind a bit. Last November, everything blew up between my Syl and my husband, her own brother. All because she refused to give their mother $10. 10 measly dollars. My Syl ended up going completely no contact with us after that, shutting out not just us, but her own mother and all the other siblings as well. Eventually, sure, she broke the wall of silence with Mill and Bill too, but she never bothered to unblock my husband. Fine by me, honestly, life is so much smoother without the constant whirlpool of her bad decisions and selfishness dragging us under. On most days, I'd pick cuddling a man-sized porcupine with a mouthful of rotten onions over dealing with her nonsense. But you know what? Life has blossomed for my Mill since November 2022. She finally signed the divorce papers, breaking free from my pathetically endowed Phil. She found herself a fantastic therapist, scored a job that she truly enjoys, and started building actual friendships. By June, my Mill had landed a cozy apartment for herself and her beloved dogs. Things have only gone up from there. My girl even managed to buy herself a car and dip her toes back into dating. She has a date lined up for this Saturday. There's this saying in my country, they don't love me, they only know me when they need me. If anyone ever doubted the truth of that, then my Syl is the living, breathing proof. Just this Thursday, Bill 2 pulled me aside at Mill's neat little place and shared the latest drama. Apparently, Syl decided it was convenient to unblock him and make a call. The conversation went a little something like this. Bill 2, so you unblocked me. What you want? Syl, talk to mummy for me, eh? She being stink right now. Bill 2, talk to her about what? Syl, I need to move in with her. Things tough, and I need some time to catch myself. But mummy said no. Turns out, after Syl glimpsed Mill's new apartment, the place she didn't even bother to help Mill move into, she realized she might squeeze some benefit out of it. She's behind on her own rent, bills stacking up, and struggling to take care of her latest impulse purchase, a new dog. And yes, in true Syl style, she splurged on several vacations these past 2 years. She just got back from one, actually, but those, according to her, were absolutely essential for mental and emotional well-being. Now? The bills are drowning her. She believes moving into her mother's apartment rent-free will magically restore her finances. But Mill shut her down hard. The space, Mill said, is just too small. Of course, Sil countered, pulling the family card. Talk to her for me, Bill too. We're family. We're supposed to help each other. Bill too tried to be sympathetic, even offering to lend her rent money for the month and suggesting they discuss some long-term solutions. But my Sil scoffed at the idea of paying rent. I don't need to be paying rent right now. I just don't got it. That's when Bill too realized what was really going on. So, how you gonna move in with mummy if you can't pay rent? He asked. Her answer? Plain as day, why you think I need to move in with her? I can't pay any bills. You read that right, she expects to move in like a permanent guest, rent and bill free, and let her mother pick up the pieces. This, after she had the nerve to deny her own mother $10 for dog food, snatched the family TV back, and dragged every one of our names through the mud to anyone who would listen. But Mill finally stood her ground and refused to budge. That was 2 weeks ago, and Mill hasn't wavered an inch since. Meanwhile, Bill too, my husband, and I can't help grinning smugly to ourselves as we watch karma play out its delicious hand. You really do reap what you sow. Update 3. Well. Just when I thought the Sil saga couldn't get any more twisted, life decided to serve up a plot twist that would make a soap opera writer jealous. Remember how I mentioned Mill had a date lined up? Yeah, that innocent little detail turned into the match that lit the entire family powder keg. So Mill goes on her Saturday date, her first real date in years, mind you. She's glowing, feeling confident, wearing this gorgeous dress she splurged on for herself. The guy's name is Marcus, a widower she met through her new job. Sweet, respectful, nothing flashy but genuinely interested in getting to know her. They went to dinner, had a lovely time, and Mill comes home practically floating on air. But here's where it gets interesting. Apparently, Sil had been driving by Mill's apartment that same evening, probably still hoping to catch her in a weak moment about the whole moving in situation. Instead, she spots Mill getting out of Marcus's car, all dressed up, laughing like she doesn't have a care in the world. The very next morning, my phone starts buzzing at 7 a.m. It's Bill too, and he sounds exhausted. Op, you're not going to believe this mess, he starts. Sil showed up at Mummy's place last night at 11 p.m., banging on the door like she was trying to break it down. Turns out Sil had worked herself into a complete frenzy. She confronted Mill about gallivanting around town while her own daughter was struggling and homeless. The audacity was breathtaking, even for her. Mill, still riding high from her lovely evening, initially tried to be diplomatic. Sweetheart, we've discussed this. My apartment is too small, and I'm finally getting my life back on track. That's when Sil dropped her bombshell. What kind of mother abandons her child to go whoring around with strange men? The silence that followed could have been cut with a knife. Mill, who has taken more abuse from this girl than any mother should, finally reached her breaking point. She told Sil exactly what she thought, that she'd given Sil chance after chance, sacrificed her own happiness for years, and watched Sil throw it all back in her face for a measly $10. But Sil wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting warmed up. She started screaming about how Mill was replacing her family and how she'd rather spend money on fancy dates than help her own blood. Then, and this is where my jaw hit the floor, she threatened to call Marcus and tell him exactly what kind of horrible mother he was dating. Mill went pale. This wasn't just about the apartment anymore. Sil was threatening to sabotage the first real happiness Mill had found in years. That's when something shifted in Mill's voice. She got quiet, eerily calm, and told Sil she had exactly 30 seconds to leave her property before she called the police. Sil laughed, actually laughed, and said, "You wouldn't dare. I'm your daughter." Wrong answer. Mill pulled out her phone and started dialing. Sil's tune changed real quick. She tried backtracking, saying she was just upset and didn't mean it, but Mill had already heard enough. She told Sil that until she got professional help and could treat people with basic human decency, she was no longer welcome in her life. But here's the kicker, and I'm still processing this myself. As Sil was storming off, she turned around and screamed, "Fine. See how you feel when you find out what your precious Marcus is really like." We all assumed it was just another empty threat, her usual dramatic exit line. But 3 days later, Mill gets a Facebook message from a woman named Lisa, claiming to be Marcus's girlfriend of 2 years. The message included photos of Marcus and Lisa together, recent ones, with captions about their anniversary getaway just last month. My poor Mill was devastated. She'd been so careful about getting back into dating, and now she felt completely foolish. But something about the whole thing felt off to me. The timing was too convenient, the photos looked almost staged, and honestly, how would Sil even know about this alleged girlfriend? So I did a little digging. Turns out Lisa is actually Sil's friend from work, a friend who, for the right price, was willing to help with a little social media performance. The photos were real, but they were from a completely different context. Lisa and Marcus had been set up on a blind date by mutual friends 2 years ago, went out exactly once, stayed friends, and occasionally hang out in group settings. The anniversary getaway was actually a group trip with 6 other people that Lisa conveniently cropped out of the photos. When I presented this evidence to Mill, watching her face transform from heartbreak to fury was something else entirely. She'd been played, manipulated by her own daughter who was so desperate to control her life that she'd rather destroy Mill's happiness than see her move on. Mill called Marcus immediately, explained the whole situation, and apologized profusely. Marcus, bless his heart, was more concerned about Mill than upset about the drama. He'd dealt with manipulative ex-family members before and understood completely. They're still dating, stronger than ever, and Mill has finally, seen Sil for exactly who she is. As for Sil? Well, karma works in mysterious ways. Her little scheme backfired spectacularly when Lisa got cold feet and confessed everything to her own boyfriend, who happens to work at the same company as Sil. Word got around the office about Sil's manipulation tactics, and let's just say her work environment has become significantly less friendly. Oh, and remember that apartment she was so desperate to move into? Turns out she got evicted from her current place last week. She's been staying with Phil, who's apparently just as fed up with her antics as the rest of us. According to Bill 1, who finally broke his usual silence to share this gem, Phil told Sil she has until the end of the month to find somewhere else to go because he's too old for this nonsense. My husband is still blocked on everything, but honestly, we're both sleeping better at night knowing we made the right choice 9 months ago. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. The best part? Mill and Marcus are planning a weekend getaway next month. She's glowing again, laughing more than I've seen in years, and for the first time since I've known her, she's putting her own happiness first. It's amazing what peace feels like when you finally stop letting toxic people rent space in your head. Update 4. You know that feeling when you think you've seen the absolute worst of someone, and then they somehow manage to dig deeper? Yeah, welcome to my life with Sil. Just when we thought the Marcus manipulation scheme was rock bottom, my sister-in-law decided to prove us all wrong in the most spectacular fashion possible. It's been 6 weeks since the whole fake girlfriend fiasco, and Mill has been absolutely thriving. She and Marcus are rock solid. Turns out surviving attempted sabotage together really strengthens a relationship. They've been practically inseparable, and honestly, it's beautiful to watch Mill finally experience what healthy love looks like. But of course, Sil couldn't just fade quietly into the background. 3 weeks ago, Bill 2 calls me, and I can hear the exhaustion in his voice before he even speaks. We have a problem. A big one. Apparently, Sil had been evicted right on schedule from Phil's place, shocking absolutely no one. But instead of finding her own solution like a functioning adult, she'd been secretly camping out in her car in Mill's apartment complex parking lot. For 2 weeks. 2 weeks, the security guard finally noticed the same beat-up Honda Civic parked there every night and reported it to building management. When Mill found out, she was mortified. Not because she felt bad for Sil, oh no, those days are long gone, but because she was embarrassed that her neighbors might think she was involved in this pathetic display. She marched down to that car and had what she later described as the most final conversation of my life. Mill told Sil she had exactly 24 hours to remove herself and her car from the property, or she'd have it towed and file a restraining order. Sil, true to form, tried to flip the script. She started crying about how she was homeless and desperate and how could her own mother be so heartless. But here's where it gets interesting. Mill had learned from her therapist about something called gray rock, basically becoming as boring and unresponsive as possible to toxic people. So instead of engaging with the drama, she just repeated, 24 hours, Sil. After that, I'm calling the police. Sil, realizing her usual manipulation tactics weren't working, switched strategies entirely. She got this weird, almost sinister smile and said, fine, mummy. But don't come crying to me when your perfect little boyfriend shows his true colors. That should have been our first red flag. Fast forward to last Tuesday, Marcus had planned this sweet surprise date for Mill, a picnic in the botanical gardens followed by a sunset boat ride. Really romantic stuff that had Mill giddy like a teenager. They're having this perfect afternoon when Marcus's phone starts buzzing. And buzzing. And buzzing. Finally, he checks it, and his face goes completely white. Mill asks what's wrong, and Marcus just hands her the phone without a word. Someone had created a fake dating profile using Marcus's photos and information, but with a completely different personality. This fake Marcus was messaging dozens of women, sending inappropriate photos, thankfully not actually of Marcus, asking for money, making crude sexual comments, basically everything the real Marcus would never do. But the truly diabolical part? The fake profile listed Marcus's real workplace, his real phone number, and even mentioned Mill by name, describing her as his sugar mama who was getting too clingy. By the time they figured out what was happening, Marcus had 17 missed calls from his boss, 12 text messages from coworkers asking if he was okay, and 3 voicemails from his ex-wife. They'd stayed friendly for their kid's sake, warning him that someone was using his identity to harass women online. Mill immediately knew who was behind it. The level of personal information, the specific details about their relationship, the timing, it all pointed to Sil. But proving it was another story entirely. The next few days were absolute chaos. Marcus had to file a police report, contact the dating app company, and have several very uncomfortable conversations with his employer about why his photo was being used to solicit strangers for sex. His reputation took a serious hit, especially when some of the women who'd been messaged started calling his workplace directly. Meanwhile, Mill was beside herself with guilt. She kept apologizing to Marcus, saying this was all her fault for having such a toxic daughter. Marcus, being the saint that he is, kept reassuring her that Syl's actions were not her responsibility. But then, last Friday, we got the break we needed. Bill 1, remember him? The one who usually stays out of family drama, called my husband out of the blue. Turns out, Syl had been bragging to him about her genius plan to break up Mill and Marcus. She'd apparently enlisted that same friend Lisa to help create the fake profile, thinking she was being clever. What Syl didn't realize was that Bill 1 had been recording their conversation. Not for any nefarious reason, he'd been on a work call when she barged into his apartment and just never hung up the conference line. His entire office heard Syl confessing to identity theft, harassment, and basically attempting to destroy someone's livelihood out of spite. Bill 1's boss, who happened to be a lawyer, immediately told him this was serious criminal behavior and that he needed to report it. Bill 1, who'd been trying to stay neutral in family drama for years, finally realized that Syl had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The recording was crystal clear, Syl explicitly describing how she'd gathered Marcus's personal information, how she'd convinced Lisa to help her create fake accounts, and how she planned to ruin his life until Mill came crawling back to her. When the police played that recording for Mill and Marcus, I watched something die in Mill's eyes. Not sadness, she'd moved past that months ago. This was the final, complete severing of whatever maternal bond had been holding her back from fully protecting herself. Syl was arrested last Wednesday on charges of identity theft, cyberstalking, and harassment. The judge denied bail after the prosecutor argued that she'd shown a pattern of escalating behavior and posed a continued threat to the victims. But even then, Syl couldn't resist one last desperate move. From jail, she somehow managed to call Bill 2, crying and begging him to bail her out. She promised she'd changed, swore this was all a misunderstanding, claimed she was just trying to protect Mummy from making a mistake. Bill 2, who'd been her most reliable enabler after Mill, listened to her entire sob story. Then he said something that I'll never forget. Syl, I love you because you're my sister. But I don't like you as a person anymore. And I'm not going to keep pretending that's okay. He hung up and blocked her number. As for Marcus and Mill, they're stronger than ever. Marcus actually proposed last weekend, nothing fancy, just the two of them on Mill's couch with her dogs curled up around them. She said yes, obviously, and they're planning a small ceremony in the spring. My husband is still blocked on all Syl's social media, but honestly, we're both just relieved. We went from having a toxic tornado destroying everything in its path to having family dinners where people actually enjoy each other's company. Syl's trial is set for next month. Her lawyer is apparently pushing for a plea deal, but the prosecutor seems pretty confident about the case. Lisa, her accomplice, already pled guilty to lesser charges in exchange for testifying against Syl. The most surreal part? Phil reached out to Mill for the first time in 2 years to apologize. He said he'd been enabling Syl's behavior for so long that he'd lost sight of how damaged she'd become. He's not asking to reconcile, he knows that ship has sailed, but he wanted Mill to know that he supports her decision to press charges. Sometimes I look back at that original fight over $10 and marvel at how it exposed everything. $10. That's all it took to reveal someone's true character and set in motion a chain of events that would completely reshape our family. But you know what? I'm grateful for that $10 argument. Without it, Mill might still be trapped in that cycle of abuse and manipulation. Marcus might never have entered her life, and we might still be walking on eggshells around someone who was willing to destroy lives for her own selfish agenda. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go help Mill pick out wedding flowers. Apparently, she's thinking of a Caribbean theme, bright, bold, and absolutely nothing like the gray, dreary existence she used to live.